Viewer beware.
Alright, I don't think anybody's in here. Let's go. Hey, my scholastic book fair shoppers, and welcome back to Viewer Beware. It's the only show where we go over each and every episode of the original Goosebumps TV series, and today we have a very special episode with The Perfect School, or just Perfect School. To get into the spirit of things, I have broken into a very real school to get the viewers a more authentic experience for this episode.
I thought you had keys.
Yeah, if by key you mean a brick and a waist-high window I could crawl through, totally. But before the police come and catch us, we're going to roll in that TV on a cart and check out this two-part episode.
Well, you better hurry up then.
Exactly what I was thinking. So today's lesson is Perfect School. It's the story of a prankster that gets sent to a reform school where the kids leaving are oddly robotic. Sure, we've seen it before, but have we seen it with a fish tank birth scene? I hope not. And so, for the sake of this being a real school, I want to play by the rules. It's non-alcoholic today, but the spirit is the same. Let's ring that bell and start Perfect School. It's a dark, stormy night, and we see a nerd terrified under his blanket. As this nerd cowers in fear, we see a shadowy figure cut the power to the home. We're really starting this episode off guns blazing. After we cut to the parents at dinner, reassuring themselves the kid will be fine, we see a man in all black walk up the stairs to the nerd's room. Turns out it wasn't a home invader at all. Just our hero of the story, Brian O'Connor, pranking his little brother with the classic home invasion bit. Apparently this prank was the final straw for Brian's parents, as the very next day we see him getting shipped off to The Perfect School, a boarding school for troubled young men. Brian pleads his case to his parents, but they aren't hearing it and happily send him off.
In case I didn't make myself clear before, again, I'm just really sorry.
Good luck, son.
Goodbye, sweetie. I hope you learned something from this experience.
As Brian boards the bus, he quickly susses out who the cool kids are from the dorks, and makes nice with the coolest guy he can find.
I can't believe they're doing this to me.
As the boys arrive at the school and disembark the bus, we meet the head of the school, who is immediately harsh on the boys, as well as see the last batch of hooligans being picked up, acting like perfect goody two-shoes boys.
Hello, Mother. Hello, Father.
He looks perfect.
The new arrivals then go through the check-in process where they all have to relinquish their bad boy shades and any other personal item they may have. Before Brian can even check into the building, he already gets into a scuffle with another student about a mopping issue. The headmaster quickly steps in and banishes the troublemaking student to some form of punishment and sets the tone for how things will be going for the boys from now on. The next day, all the new boys are at breakfast in their uniforms complaining about their situation. But those sweaters are actually kind of hard, and I'd wear one just for the look of it. Anyway, after the awkward breakfast, the boys are shuffled into a classroom, and all are handed workbooks that they are forced to complete right away. But the questions aren't necessarily school-related.
There must be a million pages here. Yeah. Check out the questions. What's your favorite food? What do you call your parents? What's your first memory? What kind of test is this?
Anyway, that night and the nerdy kid Joe are tasked with scrubbing the school with toothbrushes. Brian complains about the work, but Joe looks on the bright side and reasons that it's not so bad. As the boys clean, Brian is approached by the mop boy that started the tussle with him the other day, and he is acting totally different now.
Please forgive me. I was quite rude.
Yeah, well, forget about it.
They accelerated my program. I'm going home today.
Good for you.
Brian is extra weirded out by the encounter and decides he is running away from this creepy place. But as he approaches the exterior fence, he sets off the alarms, forcing him to sneak past a fleet of guards.
Who is it? We don't know, sir. Find him. Now!
Recognizing that he's not going to be able to keep hidden for long, Brian goes back to his room just as the headmaster is doing room-to-room searches. As the headmaster opens the door, we see that Brian is still hanging outside the trellis from his window. How will he ever get into the room in time? Turns out he just pops up out of nowhere in full uniform, very sweaty, and very suspicious. But that's good enough for the headmaster. The next day, Brian and Joe are talking about Brian's failed escape, with Joe unsurprised it didn't work.
Haven't you read the brochures? Satisfaction guaranteed or your parents' money back? You think they're gonna let you just walk out of here? No. An escape is gonna have to be planned. Carefully thought out.
But before he can share details, the cool kid from the bus, CJ, sends Joe away to clean the toilets so he can talk to Brian about the escape. Brian inherently trusts CJ more because he's a cool guy, and Joe is frequently seen being buddy-buddy with the Guardians. CJ tells Brian that Joe ratted on him and that he should be careful with the dork. That night, Brian leaves his room after curfew to politely threaten Joe.
You better hope I don't get caught, Joe. Because if I do, I might think you had something to do with it.
Good night.
But on his way back, he gets sidetracked running away from the Guardians on patrol, so he ducks out into the headmaster's office. Seeing a phone, Brian decides to call his mom and beg her to come get him, also noticing a box of tissue samples on the desk. However, he doesn't get much time to explore.
Your program will be accelerated starting tonight. Get him out of here.
Brian is sent back to his room, but the headmaster wasn't joking about his program being accelerated. Yeah, I actually got suspended for stealing Doritos from the cafeteria. True story. Hey, welcome back, cadets. So we see that Brian rocked the boat just a little bit too hard, and for that, he is getting drugged and strapped to a bed. Is that a bit of a overstep? Probably, but this school has a lot of things we don't know about yet. What exactly is this program that he needs to be accelerated on? Why does he need to be drugged to be on this program? Why do the kids leaving the school act so strangely? You don't know.
Back in my day, if you want to teach a kid how to behave, you just hit him with a paddle.
How old are you?
Anywhere between 1 and 150 years old. I don't know, man. Time is a flat circle to me.
That is troubling. But what's even more troubling is the situation that Brian finds himself in. Did Joe really sell him out? Should we bring back bullying because of that? Where can I find one of those sweaters? Please, I need to know. If you can find one out there, just send me a DM or something. I'm counting on you. Also, yeah, Brian is pumped full of drugs and strapped to a table right now, so I guess that is more pressing than my sweater issue right now, but keep it in mind. So, let's jump back to the stunning conclusion of Perfect School. We start part 2 with a sedated Brian being carted through the halls of Perfect School. Brian is fading in and out of consciousness as doctors appear to be taking his measurements for something. However, Brian is fully woken up by CJ telling him he's going to be late to class. On the way to class, Brian tells CJ that the Guardians were taking his measurements, fingerprints, and tissue samples, but CJ writes it off as just a dream. In the classroom, Joe is being buddy-buddy with the Guardian who lets him walk out to the hallway unsupervised, which leads to CJ and Brian suggesting that he may be an inside man for the Guardians, to spy on the rest of the boys. But the two are talking a little too loud.
Bet he's a spy. I was thinking the same thing.
That's it!
Brian gets taken out of the classroom and escorted back to the headmaster's office, where he runs into Joe in the waiting room. Brian lets Joe know that he and CJ are onto him about being a spy, but Joe calmly explains that those two are idiots.
Look, you think I've been all warm and friendly with these guys because I'm working for them? Man, I'm a better actor than I thought.
What are you talking about?
Ever heard the phrase, go along to get along?
Can't say that I have.
While Brian was being a standout and making waves, Joe is keeping the lowest profile possible and crafting an escape plan the smart way. Joe gets taken into the headmaster's office, but while Brian is alone in the waiting room, he hears voices in the vents and tries to talk to them before they all go quiet. But the voices did lead him directly to a laptop with a full directory and schematic of everything Perfect School does. Naturally, Brian searches his own name to see the school keeps shirtless pics of him, with a progress bar counting down how close he is to being reformed. Before Brian can dig any more, a Guardian breaks up the investigation, causing Brian to hide in the vents overhead. At this point, we need to talk about the sheer speed Brian is able to move in these clutch situations, as this is the second time that he has seemingly completely phased through walls while a door is in the process of being opened. But anyway, there's more important issues at hand. As Brian crawls through the ventilation, he gets his sweater snagged and ditches it, sneaking his way to the other boys to find CJ, where he explains his escape plan and asks for CJ to trust him completely and go with him.
They're gonna be looking for me. I need a distraction.
One distraction coming up. He did it!
CJ starts a riot with the boys to cover for Brian going missing, giving Brian enough time to gather his things and head to the meeting spot for the escape. Once again, he gets rerouted by the Guardians as he's sneaking, and ends up in a room called the nursery that he vaguely remembers from when he got drugged. Digging deeper into the nursery, he finds a ton of data about all of the boys and a bunch of scientific equipment. As Brian searches the room, he finds what looks like a perfect copy of himself that had been grown in a tube. Freaking out, Brian runs out of the lab and bumps into CJ.
How'd they do what? How'd they create the perfect kid? They're cloning us. The voices, they're the real kids. They must be locked away downstairs. They send the replacements home with the parents.
CJ decides they need to leave right away and takes Brian with him, but treachery is afoot.
You're not going anywhere.
What?
The laundry truck just left without you. Say hello to your new roommates. You should be more careful who you trust, Brian.
CJ was the spy all along, and tricked Brian right from the start. But with the help of the caged boys, Brian is able to escape the room before he is confronted with an army of clones, and then ultimately his own clone, still naked from the birthing tube.
You're not going anywhere. Except back to the lockup with the rest of them.
We fade to black and open to the O'Connor family all eating dinner together, with Brian acting like a completely new kid, with a Leave It to Beaver haircut and a positive attitude. We can only assume that Clone Brian won in the end. But what is going on with the boys in the school?
You gotta get me out of here. I keep telling you. The real Brian shoved me in here and took my spot. I'm the clone. Brian O'Connor's clone.
Yeah, I'm a clone too. Come on, you gotta get me out of here. Come on, please. You gotta get me out of here. I'm Joe Roberts' clone. We're all clones. Let us all out. Come on. Nice try.
I'm stuck.
What happened?
Someone put glue on my chair.
Really? Why would someone do that on purpose? Must have been an accident. Operation Rescue. Don't worry, guys. I'll get you out of there. It's the last thing I do. I'll get you out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have played sports, but you need a 1.5 GPA, and that's not happening. Oh, welcome back. So we see that Brian has successfully switched places with his clone and went back home, all while plotting a escape plan for Joe and the rest of the kids like some kind of preteen freedom fighter. All things considered, it's a pretty heartwarming ending to the episode.
It doesn't feel right. Something is off.
Well, you would be right, because the original story was adapted from Even More Tales to give you Goosebumps. So it was a short story, and things were changed that shift the tone a good amount. When Brian gets to the school, things progress fairly similar to the episode, but instead of clones, the kids are replaced with robots. And Brian still pulls his switcheroo and changes spots with his robot, but he's just content with laying low and convincing his parents he's changed. He doesn't have any plans to free these kids. He's just content with saving his own skin.
That's more what I was expecting.
Right, but I guess when they were adapting the episode, they probably thought that ending was a little too selfish and kind of, didn't play to Brian's character the right way. I mean, after all, we see that there are multiple occasions he tries to escape with other kids, so he cares about his fellow pranksters. It's just, it doesn't come through in the story. But what I found most interesting is that this episode was originally only supposed to be one episode. According to director Ron Oliver, they had submitted a 38-minute rough cut, and then were just given the green light to extend it out and make it a two-parter in full. Which is pretty cool because the pacing of Perfect School is pretty well done. I mean, It holds on the chase scenes and the narrow escapes just enough to build a really good amount of suspense and mystery without overstaying its welcome, as a lot of these two-parters do tend to have included. There's no fluff. It's right to the action, right to the suspense, and that's very well done. That being said, Perfect School is 100% more a thriller than it is a horror episode. I mean, it's really good at building suspense and mystery, but at no point do you feel really scared. I mean, you're worried for Brian. You're hoping that he gets through this mysterious, strange school, but it doesn't have the fear factor. And that's why when I first watched it, I wasn't a super big fan, because I wasn't scared. You know, nothing in it was really like giving me the goosebumps, if you will. But rewatching it, I do appreciate what it does. It's a nice break from, you know, traditional horror stories, and the setting is really cool. The mystery's really good. I like it a good amount. And for those reasons, I'm going to give Perfect School 4 bumps out of 5. Check it out. Especially if you are a bit of a prankster yourself and find yourself, you know, threatened with military school. You know, I know a lot of you are like, hey, I'm 38. Why would I be threatened with military school? It could still happen. You can get drafted, my man. I see the analytics. I know all of my audience is older than 25. You can't hide from me. I know. I see you there watching me all adultly. I don't know where I was going with this. Just don't get drafted, you know? Protect your neck. So, if you made it this far, hey, give me a subscribe. I'm going to get out of here before I get arrested. So, yeah. See you guys next time.
How stupid do you think I am?
I don't know. How stupid are you?